For years, Adam22 and Lena the Plug built one of the most controversial relationships on the internet. Not because they were private, but because they were the exact opposite. Millions of people watched every stage of their relationship unfold in public. The dates, the podcast, the arguments, the business decisions, even the parts most couples would never share with the world. And somehow, against all odds, they kept growing. Together, what started as two internet personalities eventually became a media empire. Multiple businesses, millions of followers, premium content platforms, real estate, podcast networks, and a brand worth millions of dollars. To many fans, they seemed untouchable. But behind every public relationship, there are private conversations nobody gets to hear. And that's what made the rumors so explosive. Because people weren't just asking whether Adam and Lena were separating. They were asking something much darker. What happens when your marriage is also your business? What happens when your spouse is also your business partner? And what happens when millions of dollars are involved? Then came the alleged divorce filing. And suddenly, the internet smelled blood. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. Who gets what? But before we answer that question, you need to understand why divorce becomes terrifying once real money enters the picture. Because one billionaire learned that lesson the hard way. In the early 1990s, Jeff Bezos wasn't a billionaire. He wasn't even close. He was just a young man with a crazy idea. Quit a secure Wall Street job, drive across America, and start an online bookstore from a garage. Most people thought it was insane. One of the very few people who didn't. His wife, MacKenzie. She was there before Amazon, before the private jets, before the mansions, before the billions. She helped build the foundation during the years when success wasn't guaranteed. Fast forward nearly 25 years. Amazon becomes one of the most valuable companies on Earth. Jeff becomes the richest man alive. Then everything changes. The marriage ends. And suddenly, the world watches one of the largest wealth transfers in modern history. MacKenzie walks away with shares worth approximately $38 billion. In a single moment, she became richer than most royal families. And here's what terrified entrepreneurs. Many realized something uncomfortable. The people who support you before you're successful may legally have claims to the empire that comes afterward. But while Bezos lost billions, the internet believed another man had discovered a loophole. A football player from Morocco. Or at least, that's the story everyone wanted to believe. The Achraf Hakimi legend. By 2023, Achraf Hakimi had everything. A Champions League star. One of the highest paid footballers in the world. Luxury lifestyle. Global fame. Millions in earnings every year. Then came reports of a divorce battle. And almost immediately, a story began spreading online. According to viral posts, his wife expected to receive a significant portion of his fortune. But when investigators supposedly examined his assets, they found almost nothing. The story claimed that much of Hakimi's wealth had been placed under his mother's name. Cars, properties, investments, everything. Whether every detail was true didn't matter anymore. The internet had already decided. Hakimi became a legend. Videos praising him exploded across social media. Comment sections called him a genius. Some called it the greatest financial defense move ever. Others called it a myth. But the reason the story became so powerful had nothing to do with Hakimi. It revealed a fear millions of people secretly have. The fear that one signature could erase decades of sacrifice. And that fear is exactly why divorce lawyers make millions every year. Because the real truth about divorce is actually more shocking than the viral stories. Why divorce law scares the wealthy. Imagine building a company from your bedroom. No investors, no connections, just years of work. One day that company becomes worth $20 million. Then your marriage falls apart. Now imagine sitting in a room while lawyers debate the value of your life's work. Not your house, Not your car, your dream, the thing you sacrificed sleep for, the thing you risked everything for. That's what makes high net worth divorces different. They're not just dividing money, they're dividing stories, years, sacrifices, ambitions, and sometimes entire futures. Which is why some celebrity divorces cost more in legal fees than most people earn in a lifetime. And this brings us back to Adam22 and Lena. Because their biggest asset may not be their house or their bank account, it may be something far more difficult to divide. Their audience, the hardest thing to split. Imagine a company. Now imagine the company is built around two people. Their personalities, their chemistry, their conversations, their reputation. Now imagine those two people separate. What happens next? Who owns the audience? Who owns the brand? Who owns future revenue? Who owns the content? These questions can become worth millions. And unlike a house, you can't cut a podcast in half. You can't split a fanbase with a knife. You can't easily place a price tag on influence. Which is why some of the biggest divorce battles in history weren't about cash. They were about ownership. And that's exactly why the Adam22 and Lena story fascinated millions. Because people weren't watching a relationship. They were watching a business empire face uncertainty. And uncertainty creates curiosity. Maybe the divorce filing was real. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe the story disappears next week. But the reason people became obsessed with it is simple. Every entrepreneur, every creator, every ambitious person asks the same question. If I spend decades building something extraordinary, can I lose a large part of it overnight? Jeff Bezos faced that question. Achraf Hakimi became a symbol of that question. And now Adam22 and Lena have brought it back into the spotlight. Because when love and money collide, the outcome is rarely predictable. And sometimes, the story becomes bigger than the relationship itself.